Page 8, Tractate Berachot. We discussed yesterday Et Ratzon. Et Ratzon meaning a favorable time of prayer. Code of Jewish Law tells us, Orach Chaim Tzadik, chapter 90, that there are different categories when it's come to prayer. And there is a certain time that it's called Et Ratzon. What is Et Ratzon? The time that everyone pray together in our language is like the divine providence, ready to bestow upon us and accept our prayer with mercy. So the story that we present in the very end of the previous page is the story of someone who usually come to synagogue every day. He couldn't make it. They ask him, how about if you get people in your house? And eventually the point is that Matai et ratzon b'sha'ah she'hatzibur mitpalim. When is the favorable time? At the time of the congregation prayer. So the code tells us if a person cannot make it, somehow it's an urgent need, he cannot make it as part of the daily prayer, at least he can pray at the same moment, at the same time that everyone else praying. Rabbi Yosef בר חנינא אמר מהכה, כה אמר השם בעת רצון עניתיך. He said that God, at the favorable time, I have answered you. רבי אחא ברבי חנינא אמר מהכה, הן אל כביר ולא ימאס, וכתיב פדה בשלום נפשי מקרב לי כי ברבים היו עמדי. So Rashi here explained, כביר לא ימאס, תפילת הרבים לא ימאס, that God does not rejected a prayer that it's a public prayer, that people pray together, that it's a highest category. And the idea of the pada b'shalom nafshi, that Torah, it's called, one of the word of God in Torah is the word shalom, meaning peace. So if someone is make the effort, so they said here, redeem my soul in peace from battles confronted me. So that's what it meant when it's a public prayer. Tanina meyached, the same idea. Rabbi Natan omer, minayin she'en HaKadosh Baruch Hu mo'es betfilatam shel rabim. How do you know that the Almighty not rejected a prayer that make in the entire congregation? Shenemar hen el kabir lo yif'as. Kabir is like in the Hebrew word kabira. Kabira meaning the myriad, the numerous. וכתיב פדה בשלום נפשי מקרב לי, that God redeemed my soul, מקרב לי, that from confronting me. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, the Almighty said, כל העוסק בתורה ובפעילות חסידים ומתפללים בציבור. If someone involved in three important things: one, involved in study Torah; two, loving kindness and prayer with everyone else in the congregation, מעלה עליו הכתוב, מעלה עליו אני עליו כאילו פדעני לי ובלבני ממנו אומות עולם. This is a concept that it's as long as the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, is in destruction, the divine providence is part of us in exile. So they said, I deem that the person redeemed in our language me and my children from among the scattered world. אמר ריש לקיש, כל מי שיש לו בית הכנסת בעירו ואינו נכנס שם להתפלל נקרא שכן רע. If someone is in a language we call it neighborhood, how you measure neighborhood, one of the things is who are the people who dwell there. Bad neighbor can be a very bad issue. So here they said it's someone live in a city and is not bothering to go and pray in the house of worship. It's called an evil neighbor. And Rashi bring here a source from the Tractate Avot, that the idea of a neighbor, it's the same as they said in the Ethic of the Father. They said that one of the measurement to know a person is the place that he dwell. שנאמר, כה אמר השם על כל שכנה הרעים הנוגעים בנחלה שלך לתמיד ישראל. This is the say of the Lord concerning all the wicked neighbors who destroy or damage the inheritance that I have caused my people to inherit. So the term here, it's ולא אלא שגורם גלות לו ולבניו, שנאמר הננו תשם על אדמתם ואת בית יהודה ידוש מתוכם, which means that it looks like a person have a sichsuch, some types of conflict with the Almighty God. אמרו לו לרבי יוחנן איכה סבי בבבל. Now it's since we discussed the whole idea of attending synagogue, so we said that it's part of what a person have a length of life if he attend synagogue. So they said in Babylonia there are elderly people. תמה ואמר למען ירבו ימיכם ומבניכם על אדמה כתיב. What we said every day doing Shema is that God promised us that our days will be long, where al ha'adama, in the land which apply to the land of Israel, that we get a length of life. אבל בחוץ לארץ לא, that people who live outside of Eretz Israel is no promise in that text for a length of life. So he answered and he said, כיוון דאמרי לי מקדמי ומחשכי לבי כנישתא אמר היינו דאהני לאו. Because these elderly people, they in Babylon, they enter the synagogue like we are doing here, come earlier and attend the synagogue, study like we do here Daf Yomi early in the morning before the Shacharit. And the same apply sometimes for some of us it's great effort to be also in Mincha and Ma'ariv, in the evening service. So he said, Amar Hainu de Ahani Lehu, Kede Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Libnei. That's the same as the great Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said to his descendants, Kadimu vechashichu ve'ailu leveit kenishta ki heiche detorichu chayei. He gave advice. In the great rabbinic world, they leave a will, not necessarily a will that involved with money, but will in the sense of what's the proper way to live our lives. So he gave a will or advice to his sons, and he said, wake up earlier and stay late when you go to shul, synagogue. Why? If you want to have a length of life, that's the formula. So here, I just want to point out about Rashi. Rashi said, Mekadmei, when they come earlier, that's applied to Shacharit. And he said, Mechashchei Arvit, in the evening, it's Ma'ariv. So one of my books is a book, Biurei Klomar Berashi al Hashas, which is explanation of the word Klomar in Rashi, which is from the school of thought that every time Rashi used the word Klomar, something bothered him. So here Rashi used the word Klomar, which means why we need to bother. It's clear that it's a morning and evening, and he said, Klomar ma'arichim bebeit hakneset. So the idea is, it's come from the Talmud, Sanhedrin 90, that we explain it in my book, Biurei Klomar Berashi, that it's not speaking solely or mainly about the tefillot, about the prayer. It speaks about makdimim, about the people who attend earlier, because God paid them measure for measure. I also bring in my book the Yalkut Shimoni on the Ekev, who said another phase in that length of tefillah, if someone stay longer and focus in a length of tefillah, mainly in the Amidah, it's a sgula la'atzlacha belimud, which means that this is some type of secret formula to be successful in understanding when you study. So here, that's the purpose of Rashi used the word klomar to tell us that it's not applied solely in the tefillah, but it's applied also in the phases of attending and lengthening the tefillah itself, not only attending the tefillah. It's like a diuk. Amar Rabbi Acha b'Rabbi Chanina, מה יקרא אשרי אדם שומע לי לשקוד על דלתותי יום יום לשמור מזוזת פתחי? What does that mean when they said, praiseworthy is a man that listened to me who come quickly to my doors every day and guard the mezuzot, the entrance, the doorposts in my entrance, in my entryways. וכתיב בתרי, and it's written right away, כי מוצאי מצא חיים, that one is written right after that one who find me found lives. So both of them, it's a quotation from the book of Proverbs, chapter 8. What does that mean? אמר רב חיסדא, לעולם ייכנס אדם שני פתחים בבית הכנסת. Which means that the person should attend synagogue in a different entrance. What does that mean, two different entrances? There's only one entrance that the person can attend. So they said, Shnei ptachim sagrada, how a person can enter in two doors. אלא אימה שיעור שני פתחים ואחר כך יתפלל. Which means there are two ways to understand it. There are people who are sitting next to the entrance door because they can't wait to see the davening is over so they can run away. I'm correct or incorrect? Right? That's one way. Let's face it. Another way, it's the idea that when a person enters from a big tumultuous street with all the noises and disturbances, he should come down, walk in peacefully, and stand there when he praise God. So that's the idea of entering. Is another point I would like to share with you here. It's the whole idea of attending synagogue and speaking about the length of life. In Israel, they made a lot of researches about length of life. One of them, it was fascinating, I read it in several Israeli newspaper, that people who have a Seder Yom, people who have a daily schedule, especially retired people, they knew that every single day I need to attend the synagogue, I need to be there, they have their own order, they know that they must, they do not recount on them, etc. They have a daily schedule, they know that that's part of their daily routines. That's bring a person to a mindset of length of life. It's not just the spiritual part, it's also the siyata dishmaya, especially heavenly help, since the person have a schedule. Not long ago we talked about this famous rabbinic writing about elderly lady that asked Rabbi Yossi. She complained that she had no meaning of her life. She passed the 100 years of age, and he suggested her, he asked her, what are you doing? And she said she attended every day to synagogue, and he asked her not to come for 3 days, and she passed, if you remember our talk. So here is the whole idea that it's bring the mindset, the psyche of a person, a routines when he attends synagogue every day. It's a lot of advantages. I heard once from Rabbi Schwab a great idea. One of the students said to him that I study today a page in the Talmud and I attend the service. So he said, okay, that you study and you attended, what the page or the prayer did to you. In other words, not only what you did to the prayer, what the prayer did to you. What do you mean by that? That it's the double effect, it's going both ways. על זאת יתפלל כל חסיד אליך לעת מצוא. This is a sentence that speak about King David talking in the book of Psalms 32. This what every pious person pray to you at the time of need, le'et metzor. So now is the discussion, what does that mean al zot, and what does that mean le'et metzor? Amar Rabbi Chanina, le'et metzor, at the time of need, zo isha, that the person need to pray to get isha, to get the proper wife. Shene'emar matzah isha, matzah tov. The person find the wife, he found goodness. Again, it's from the book of Proverbs 18. So this is something that the person need to pray to find the proper mate, so she can bring in good and lifting up. It's our human phrases that said behind every successful person there is great or a strong woman. במערבה כי נסיב אי נשעיד את האמרי אחי. במערבה is the west, which means this is Babylon Talmud and speak about Ma'arava, which is the Eretz Israel in the west. They say that when a man marries a woman, they ask him the following question: Matzah or Motze? Meaning, did you found? Or Motze, meaning it's like Metziah, that you discover. What's the difference? It said, Matzah dichtiv, Matzah isha, Matzah tov, v'yafek ratzon me'Hashem. If you said Matzah, it's applied to a good wife, which means a wife that found goodness. So obtain favor from God. Motze, dichtiv, Motze ani mar mi'avet ha'isha. King Solomon said the other way around, that sometimes in life, if you have bad wife, he said, I found more bitter than death when you live with a spouse that makes your life miserable. So it's matzah and motzeh, it's look like kamatz and segol in Hebrew, just the dots, just the nekudot. But you see two contradicted sentences that apply to a person's life. So they ask a fellow, are you matzah or motzeh? So the rabbis also derive from that person should remember when you're getting married. Several of you soon getting married, so you should always remember that it's not just the marriage itself, it's the idea of devotion and being unselfish in order to build, livnot chayim, to build a life with a partner, has to have a certain giving up, a certain effort in order to build a proper, good example of Torah home. Rabbi Natan omer le'et metzo zot Torah. Rabbi Natan said, at the time need the finding, it's referred to study of Torah. שנאמר, כי מוצאי מצאה חיים. Here he speaks about metziah, about discovering a lost item. So they said that whoever discovered the Torah, he find the roots of life, the well of life. Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak amar le'et metzo zo mita, which means he said something very deep, that if a person found a time of need, he find it's applied to the special prayer for easy death. שנאמר למוות תוצאות. In the book of Psalms, they said that in Psalm 68, they said that that is different avenues of death, and one of the things that we need to pray is lamavet totzaot, to merit a mita nocha, to merit a easy death. Tani Rameyache, 903 מיני מיתה נבראו בעולם. The Almighty created 903 forms of death in the world. שנאמר למוות תוצאות, the same source, that many avenue, תוצאות, to death. תוצאות בגימטריה אף היחד. If you take the numbers, the numerical value of the word תוצאות is equal to 903. Now the Gemarah wants to crystallize the points, and they said קשה שבכולם אזכרה. אזכרה, it's a very hard death. That's the worth death that Rashi here explains, that it involved a great suffering. ניחש שבכולם נשיקה. The easiest one, it's called neshika, is like death of kissing, like the Torah described the death of Aaron. So the rabbi said that it's like you have a nail, it's connected to the magnet. So you have the magnet and you have the nail, it touching. So in a sense, when the neshama is pure and return to heaven, they get like the nail and the magnet. They touch it and they return to the place that they came from. That's called mitat neshika, is like kissing death. Kissing in our language is like the divine and the soul, like the death of Aaron. The other way around, it's the death that involved great suffering. Well, involved great suffering. Soon you see an example to that. Askara damya kechizra bigvava de amra de laachorei nashra. Askara, it's like you take branches of thorns and you put together with the wheel and the yarn, and you put all together and you remove them. So what does that mean? So Rashi said here, כענפי הסירים הנסבכים בגזת הצמר, כשאדם נותן בחוזקה ומשליך לאחור, שאי אפשר שלא ינתק הצמר עימה. So there are two ways to understand it. One way, it's like you take the triangle in Bermuda, and you know that there are many stories about any iron item, including airplane, disappear there. So it's certain areas that it's a problem. Here, there are different way of seeing it. The one way, it's they say that when a person, the great Kabbalistic rabbi tells us that when a person connected so much to the materialistic world, so it's like the same as the yarn and the wool and the linen. It's so interconnected to this world that it's, you call it in Hebrew, histabech b'chomriyut. He is so triangle, it's so connected to the materialistic world that when you need to disconnect the soul from the body, it's a great sorrow because it's so connected to this world. Ve'ika damrei befiturei kefiturei befi veshet. It's like similar to ropes that force through tight holes. So it's when you have a boat, so you know how hard is it when you need to put those holes in the. So that's what happened when a person is so connected to all this world full of materialism, and when you disconnected the soul itself, it's hard. Neshika dama ki mishchal binita mechalaba. However, neshika, this kissing there, is similar to removing a hair from milk. What does that mean? Imagine you have a cup of milk and you have a little tiny hair. You're about to drink it, what do? You pull it out and it's over. So it's just a similar example, what's the difference? And this part of what a person should pray, because you don't know when is our time to depart from this world. So a person should pray that the departure from this world will be easy. There are many prayers involved with death. Part of that is that they'll be able to bury the body properly. You see here what's the example. Rabbi Yochanan Amar le'et metzo zot kvura. At the time of need of finding, this referred to a proper burial. I can attest to that during the first Lebanon war, we have one incidence of terrible helicopter crash with, if I'm not mistaken, 54 pure Israeli soldiers, pure souls that just died. And they just took the spare part of the helicopters and collected all the ashes and they make it a large sack. And they make it, which called in Hebrew, kever achim, a large monument of brothers. Heartbreaking situation. And I remember while we are standing there around that big monument, and the chaplain came and others came, and one of the mother, she came to the chaplain and she said she doesn't know the difference because it was after the burial, and she said to that chaplain, she said to him, which side of this monument my son is buried? I want to make a prayer and find a place. It was a 54 soldiers, and it's only ashes left. So that's what the prayer we said here, le'et metzo zo kvura, that the person have a proper burial, should be buried properly, should find his or her body, and will be able to bury properly. That's also something that the person should pray, that he is kot likvura, because not everyone merit to have the proper burial. Amar Rabbi Chanina Ma'ikra. By the way, I must say, because it happened in my 10 years here many times, it's a side note, it's always break my heart, and I fight it tooth to nail, as you know. We in Judaism are opposed to any form of cremation, and even a person leave a will that he or she wish to be cremated, we do not have to honor that will by Jewish law, since Jewish law regards the body as God entities, and therefore we need to bury the body properly according to Jewish law. Amar Rabbi Chanina Ma'ikra, hasmechim elei gil yasisu ki imtzeu kaver. They said those who enjoy a good fortune, who delight when they find the grace. What does that mean? That's from the book of Job, chapter 3. אמר רבא בר רב שילה, היינו דאמרי אינשי, this is what people said, ליבאי אין אינש רחמי אפילו עד זיבותא בתראי פשלמה. That part of our prayer should be, a person should pray that the God mercy at all his days, even the day that last shovelful dirt cast upon his grave, should have a peace. One small example, when I officiated a funeral not long ago, I think some of you remember that the funeral home director called me aside and he said, you see, there's 4 sons and 1 daughter, and they are in 5 different rooms, and you need to do the kriya for each of them because they don't talk to each other. So in the process of burial, there is a lot happening within the body and within the family, and this is one of the things that the person needs to pray, that even the last shovelful of the dirt cast upon his grave should have a peace for the soul. Mar Zutra אמר לעת מצוא זה בית הכיסא. Mar Zutra said at the time of need, finding it's referred to a place where the person go to the toilet. That it's close by, doesn't need to travel long. Especially people who have a great need. אמרה במערב עד אמר מר זוטרא עדיפא מכולו. The Eretz Yisrael, they said what he said, it's very important because it's something that needs anywhere. אמר לרבא לרב מרמר פאפא. רב מרמר פאפא, if you remember when we do the siyum, is one of the 10 sons. לימה לן מר מהנה מעליה דאמרת משמי דרב חיסדא במילה דבי קנישתא. Please tell us something from the great teaching that you said of name of Rav Chisda in regard to shuls, to synagogue. אמר לי אחי אמר רב חיסדא, מהי לכתיב אוהב השם שערי ציון מכל משכנות יעקב? What does that mean that God loved Zion, all the sanctity of Yaakov, of Jacob? אוהב השם שערים המצוינים בהלכה. God loved gathering places that they have a dialogue and discussion over the question of a halakha. There are several interpretations. The key point is there are some people who are mefalpelim, who study just in order to study and improve their brain or understanding. Here they speak about what is the highest, what really accepted and welcoming in the God's quote-unquote mind is the aliba shmata aliba dilcheta, that we always should find in our study what's the proper halakha, to go deep and understand the final halakha, how important it is. You have some people, unfortunately, that thinking that they are righteous people and knowledgeable people, and you ask them a very basic halachot. For example, Hilchot Shabbat, the idea of borer, to separate some item from other items, and they are not so familiar. So the idea is that a person not only involved with study Hilchot Shabbat, but also always find the practical halakha that lead him the proper life. So it's that hametsuyanim ba'alacha yoter mebadei knesiyot u'madei rashot. In that sense, more than the synagogue and study halls, that it's purpose to have the practicality in the study. והיינו דאמר רבי חייא בר עמי משמי דאולה, מיום שחרב בית המקדש אין לו לקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו אל 4 אמות של הלכה בלבד. From the day that the temple destroyed, God have in his world only the 4 amot, like the 2 meters, meaning the spot of a study halacha all the time. ואמר אביי, מרישא בגרסינא בגוביתא ומצלינא בבית כנישתא. He said that once I heard that I study at home and pray in a synagogue. כיוון דשמען על העדר אמר רבי חייא בר עמי משמי דאולה מיום שחרב את המקדש שלנו לקדוש ברוך הוא עולמו אל 400 של הלכה בלבד, לא המצלין עליך לגרסין. Since I heard this memra, I learned that I should pray in the place that I also study Torah. An example, רבי עמי ורבי יאסי, אף על גב דאבולו קלייסטר בקנישתא בטבריה, they live in Tiberias, and there are 12 different synagogues there. לא מצלו לבני עמודה דאיך אבו גרסי. They pray in the place that it's also Beit HaMidrash, they study Torah. So the Ramchal explains the whole idea of mikdash is like mekadesh, to sanctify the environment. That all the materialistic world is influenced by the spiritual world. So because it's involved in study of Torah, so therefore it's one connected to the other. The place you study, the place you pray, one influences the others. You ask for something, the same place you study, it's create an influence. ואמר רבי חייא בר עמי משמי דאולה גדול הנמנע מיגיעו יותר מירא שמיים. He says, great is the one who fear heaven and derive benefit from its own labor, the one who fear heaven derive benefit from others. That's obviously because you have the awe of heaven and the labor connected. דאילו גבי ירא שמיים כתיב אשרי איש ירד על נאי. מצוותיו חפץ מאוד. They said that regarding to a person who have a fear of heaven, so they say, praiseworthy is a man who fear God, ואילו גבי נהנה מגיעו כתיב, הגיע כפיך כי תאכל אשר רב טוב לך. But regarding to someone who enjoys his own labor, they said, when you consume the labor of your hands, you are praiseworthy and is well with you. So they derive from that, אשריך בעולם הזה, you should be praiseworthy in this world, וטוב לך, and you well with you, לעולם הבא, in the world to come. ולגבי יראי שמיים וטוב לך לא כתיב בין. So the other pasuk is not written there. ואמר רבי חייא בר עמי משמי דרעולה, לעולם, that's very important sentence, listen carefully, לעולם ידור אדם במקום רבו. A person should always live in a place that his rabbi, his teachers, there. Why? Here is an example. שכל זמן ששמעי בן גירה קיים לא נשא שלמה את בת פרעה. That as long as the King Solomon rabbis was name is Shimei ben Gera, so as long as he was there, so Shlomo did not involve or marry the daughter of Pharaoh. So in other words, King Solomon wants to do tikkun olam, to repair the creation and expedite the messianic time. So he was so sure in his power. So we said that if Shimei was alive, he would tell him that it's not the right time, you should not bother now. But because Shimei was not there, he unfortunately made those mistakes. V'atanya al yadu, but is another writer said that a person should not leave the place of his rabbi. So they said, that if someone he subjugate his heart to his rabbi, and whatever his rabbi tells him to do, he will do. So therefore he should live in the place of his rabbi there, and he accepted what his rabbi is telling him, even sometimes he's not really like what the rabbi tells him, but he do what exactly his teacher tells him, so it's better to live in a place that his teacher is there. However, if he is not going to subjugate his heart to his rabbi, so then it makes no sense, because the whole idea is that many times we have mistakes in our mind, and we need a teacher to direct us. So if you subjugate yourself, so you will be better because you have the Rebbe to tell you. But if, like Rashi tells us here, if you feel independent, and if you feel that Rashi said, if you subjugate yourself to take the word of admonition from your Rebbe, you should live there. If you don't going to accept what the Rebbe tells you, go and live far away. So it's better to make a mistake unintentionally rather than to do something against what the rabbis tell you to do. Again, it's a very frightening sentence. They said, what does that mean? That they are forsake God shall be consumed. What it's the sentence Isaiah tells us in chapter 1. He said, that's referred to one who leave the Torah scroll while it's open and exists the synagogue. So the rabbi said many examples of that. It's, for example, you go to shul and they count on you as a part of the minyan, and all of a sudden you have a business deal or whatever it is, not a really urgent need, and you walk out while they're counting on you. Can be at the time of the Torah reading, can be at Kaddish, Kedusha, Amidah, and other important prayers time. So that's what he meant, V'ozvei Hashem yichlu, those who forsake Hashem should be consumed. Very strong sentence. Rabbi Abahu Nafik ben Gavar Legawa. It was a fellow by the name of Rabbi Abahu that needs to leave for urgent need. So he left. It was between the calling Gavar Legawa. It was one person call up to read the Torah and the next person. So it was like a space-time. He left when he has an urgent need, but not really the time at the midst of the Torah reading, which is in a sense inappropriate. By Rava, Papa ben Psuka le Psukamar, what happened between the psukim, between the phrases in the reading? Said Tiku. Always important to say Tiku, not Teiku. Tiku is a proper Hebrew, meaning the question remained unresolved. We're waiting for Eliyahu to tell us. רב ששת מהדר הפה וגריס. Rav Sheshet will turn his face away and study Torah at the time the Torah was being read. Amar anan b'didam v'inu b'didu, which means he said, we occupy in our domain, and they are occupied in their domain. Amar Ravuna bar Avuda amar Rabbi Ami, לעולם ישלים אדם פרשיותיו עם הציבור, שניים מקרא ואחד תרגום. It's very important that the person should do before Shabbat 2 times the Torah sentence, and one is the translation to Aramaic, the Targum. ואפילו עטרות ודיבון, there is a words that apply to certain cities that call עטרות ודיבון, that is no way to translate those names of places. So it's like you're doing it 3 times, you read עטרות ודיבון, it's also important, because he's giving a very interesting formula. She said, שכל המשלים פרשיותיו מהציבור מרחים למען משלותם. You want to live long life? Whoever completes the Torah portion of the week before Shabbat, or if you really couldn't make it, should be before Shacharit on Shabbos morning. So basically when they read the Torah, it's already after you did 2 times Mikra and 1 time Targum, and if you can do Rashi also, it's great, with the congregation. Merits that the days and years are prolonged. It's like Sgula is the special formula if you want to have a length life. That is a Sgula. I know one of the yeshiva bachim when I was a student used to go to an elderly person who used to do it every Shabbat, and that person turned ill, and his wishes is that to do it, but he couldn't speak, so the student used to sit with him before Shabbat and read Shnayim Mikra Ve'echad Targum. My father, God bless him for very more life, he used to do it all the times. On Friday, for hours and hours, he used to do Shnayim Mikra and Echad Targum and then Rashi. Rav Bibi bar Abaye סבר להשלומינו לפרשיית הכולה שרתא במעלה דקפורי. Here, Rav Bibi, he intend to complete the Torah portion entire year, the day of the Yom Kippur. תנא לרב יחד ברב מדיפתי, כתיבי ניתן נפשו לכם דרישה בחודש לערב, וכי דרישה מתננים בלא בעשרה מתננים. Why the Torah said that you should afflict yourself from the 9 of the months, we are basically fasts at the 10. אלא לומר לך כל האוכל ושותה בתשיעי, מעלה עליו הכתוב כאילו מתנה תשיעי ועשירי. Which means if someone prepare himself by eating, so it's like God said to us, look, you're about to go to surgery. So, but in order for you to pass the surgery properly, I want you to eat now, day before the surgery. So in a sense, if you do that properly, the way that they ask you to do, it's considering that eating is also part of service God. The Hasidut always teach us that the proper eating is always to serve God properly. So you eat before Yom Kippur, so you will be able to focus properly in the service of Yom Kippur. Savar la'akduminu, Rav Bibi bar Abaye thought to advance reading the Torah portion entire year, should do it early. Amar le'osav atalinu belvaj shelo yakdim v'shelo yacher. You shouldn't do it too early, you should not do it too late. It has to be in the proper time. Amar lo Rav Yeshua ben Levi לבני, ashlimu parshiyotaychem hatzibur, shnayim mikra ve'echad targum. He advises his sons, as we said, to do shnayim mikra ve'echad targum every time. Hebrew text twice and the Targum once, always before Shabbat, on Friday. V'yizaru bevridim keRabbi Yehuda. He said, is another advice, he said, Yizaru bevridim, you should be careful when you cut a certain vein, soon you see what is about. Ditna Rabbi Yehuda omer, ad sheyishchot et avridim. When you do the proper slaughtering of fowls performs, so you cannot eat the bird until you save the vridim. Rashi here explained vridim that it's a main blood vessels of the neck. So that's vizaru bezaken sheshachach talmudon bechamat unso. So another important thing is you have an elderly person that was a Torah scholar, and unfortunately he afflicted in some sign of sinus or Alzheimer or all kind of disease that apply to a certain age. So we should be very careful in the elderly Torah scholar that unfortunately forgotten some of his Torah learning. Why? When Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets, it was the first set of tablets that was pieces. So what did you do with those pieces? Even you no longer can use them as a tablet, but still you put it in the ark because they carry some sanctity. So in a sense, if an elderly person was a Torah scholar and is now not the same capability, we still treated him with tremendous respect because it's even considering a shivrei luchot, because he just forgot some of his studies. אמר לו רבא לבני, רבא said to his sons, כשאתם חותכים בשר, this is some advice when you cut meat, be careful, אל תחתכו על גב היד. Be careful with your hand when you cut, because God forbid you can either, God forbid you involved with cutting your own hands, Or ikadamri mishum sakana. There are some say that the reason because it's dangerous. Veikadamri mishum kilkul suuda. They say that when you have a blood involved, so the food can be spoiled. Ve'al teshbu al mitat aramid. Be careful when you see it in Aramean. They live in the certain area. It's Aramean woman, and they have not a greatest reputation. Soon you see what. Ve'al tavu achret bet hakneset b'shar shetzivum mitpalim. Don't go behind the synagogue, especially if you're turning back, while other people are praying to God. So now they elaborate on that, and they said, "Ve'al teshbu al mitat aramid ikadamrei lo tignu belo kriyat shema." One interpretation is they say that you not go to sleep Aramid before you say Shema, which means you should is another word for Kriyat Shema, that you should go to sleep, but before you go to your bed, make sure that you say Shema. Another one is the idea that you should be careful when you marry your proselytes, because sometimes there is a certain time that we have a setback or downfall, and then you have the mesirut nefesh, the devotion of the parents to the ancestors. There are some people who have some challenges, and they not withstand these challenges because they don't have the proper roots. They are said that it's applied to real Aramean, because it's a story about Rav Papa. Rav Papa azal gabe Aramit, הוציאה לו מיטה, אמרה לו שב. He went to a Aramean, and she brought him bed. They have, as I said, it's a bad reputation. She told him to sit. אמר לה, אני יושבת של בי מיטה. You have some intuition. He said to her, I'm not going to sit on this bed until you lifted up the bed. Soon you see why. והגביעה את המיטה ומצאו שם תינוק מת. She lifted up the bed, and all of a sudden they found a dead child, which means, מכאן רוחמים אסור לשבת על מיטת רמיד. She said that you should not sit there. Why? Because she planning to trap him, so she wanted him to sit, and then she called people and she said he killed that child. So therefore, they put the rules that we should be careful when we involve with them. ואל תעברו אחרי בית הכנסת בשעה הציבור מתפללים. You should be careful not to pass the synagogue when other people are praying. מסייע לרבי יהושע בן לוי. אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, אסור לו לאדם שיעבור אחרי בית הכנסת בשעה הציבור מתפללים. A person should be careful not to go to synagogue when people are praying. The obvious interpretation is that it's disrespectful. אמר אביי ולא אמרנה לליקה פיתחה אחינה. All of that apply only when there's no other door to except to that door. אבל איקה פיתחה אחינה לדבר. אבל if it's another door, so it's nothing it's concerned about. ולא אמרנה לליקה בקנישתה אחינה. It's also apply. It's the only synagogue in the city. אבל איקה בקנישתה אחינה לדבר. אבל if it's another synagogue in the area, so there's nothing to be concerned about it. Furthermore, ולא אמרנה לדלות תרי תונה. This apply except to one who's not carry a load, ולא רהיד ולא בנח תפילין. That he not be running and not wearing tefillin. If you have one of this, it's not applicable. Tanya אמר רבי עקיבא, we're running out of time, right? רבי עקיבא said, בשלושה דברים אני אוהב את המדעים. I like the מדעיס in three different things. One, שהולכים את הבשר הם חותכים לגבי השולחן. When they cut the meat, they make sure that he's on the table so they don't involve with any harming, right? As we said earlier, כשנושקים ונושקים על גבי היד. When they kiss, like our brother in the Sfaradim does, you see, when we have great Rabbeim come here, they're kissing the cover of the head. So if sometimes they have secretions, it's not on the face and other places that people are not comfortable. It's less sensitive when it's a cover of the hand. וכשיוצאים הם יועצים אליו בשדה. When they get counsel only in the field. אמר רב עדה בר אבא, מה יקרא וישלח יעקב ויקרא לרחל ולאה השדה אל שונו. What does that mean? By the way, I must tell you that one of my earlier Rabbeim was the great Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. I'm talking about the late 70s, early 80s. So we always used to kiss his hands, like great Sephardic rabbis. If you read my book on Rashi, he wrote a beautiful haskama, beautiful approbation in those days when he was the chief rabbi of Israel. So unfortunately, one of his statements later was against the Hamas organization. And since that, he was in a life-threatening situation, and he has a bodyguard, and nowadays you cannot kiss the cover of his hand anymore. Anyway, Amar Avada Barava, when Yaakov called to send for the summon Leah to his field, so you see again that they took counsel not in a central place, but in the field. What is the flag? Tanya Amar Rabban Gamliel, בשלושה דברים אני אוהב את הפרסיים. רבן גמליאל said in three things I like the Persian. Talk about the ancient Persia. Number one, hence nu'in ba'achilatan. Number one, they are very modest when they eat. They have the proper decorum, proper manner. Utznu'im b'beit hakiseh. They are also very modest in the privy. when they go to bathroom, and צנועים בדבר אחר, also in the marital relations, they're well known that they are very modest. So he said, I like them. אני ציוויתי למקודשי, the scripture said, I have commended my prepared ones. תנא רב יוסף אלו הפרסים וקדושים ונוזלים בגיהינום. Again, talk about ancient Persian in the different phases of their behavior. רבן גמליאל אומר, אמר רב יהודה וכולי, אמר רב יהודה אמר שמואל הלכה כרבן גמליאל. Now we'll go back to the subject we discussed earlier, which is the proper time to say Shema. תניא רבי שמעון בן יוחאי אומר, פעמים שאדם קורא קריאת שמע, שתי פעמים בלילה, אחד קודם של עמוד השחר ואחד לאחר של עמוד השחר, ויוצא בהם ידי חובתו, אחד של יום ואחד של לילה. It happens sometimes that the person will say Shema twice, one before the dawn, one and after the dawn, and he fulfill to this recitation his Shema obligations of both, the obligation of saying Shema in the day and the obligation to say Shema at night. הגוף הקשיא, we just said earlier that פעמים שאדם קורא קריאת שמע שתי פעמים בלילה, we said the opposite, that the first, there are times that when a person recites Shema twice in the night, one before the dawn rises and one afterward. Alma לאחר של עמוד השחר לילה להבה, which means that when they already the light of dawn rises, it's considering later, והדר תני יוצא לידי חובתו אחת של יום אחת של, and then we said that you fulfill the obligation, יממה הוא. So it means that this period between the rise and the dawn and the sunrise is considering day. So it said no, lo, leolam le'eliyahu. Actually the period of rise, dawn and sunrise is considering night. והעיקר ליום, דיקאין שלקמי באו שעתה. The reason we call it the morning because many people arise and they sleep at that time, which is early in the morning. אמר רב אחא ורב חנינא אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, הלכה כרבי שמעון בר יוחאי. He said the הלכה is according to רבי שמעון בן יוחאי. איכא דמתנא דרב אחא בר חנינא אהה. דתניא רבי שמעון בן יוחאי אומר משום רבי עקיבא. רבי עקיבא was the teacher of רבי שמעון בן יוחאי. And he said, פעמים שאדם קורא קריאת שמע שתי פעמים ביום, sometimes the person say Shema, recite Shema twice a day, אחת קודם הנצח חמה, one before the sunrise, ואחת לאחת הנצח חמה, and once after the נצח חמה, after the sunrise, ויוצא בהם ידי חובתו, אחת של יום ואחת של לילה. If we feel his obligation, reciting Shema, both the day and night, הגוף הקשיא, it's a contradiction. אמר, פעמים שאדם קורא קריאת שמע שתי פעמים ביום, one place who said that there are times when a person recites Shema twice in a day, once before sunrise and one after the sunrise, Alma קודם הנצח המים אמרו. So you see from that before the sunrise is considered a day. And then, והדר יוצא ידי חובתו אחת של יום ואחת של לילה. And then the writer said that he's fulfilled to the recitation Shema obligation of both the day and night, so which means that it's the nighttime obligation, the stage of Shema before the sunrise, Alma le'eliyahu. So you see here that it's night. So he answered and he said, no, you don't take it, lo, le'olam yemamahu. Actually, the period between the dawn and the day, it's considering Yevahad Kaule Lelia. The reason that we call it at night, the Ika Inche the Ganu Baishata, because there are people who are still sleeping at that time. אמר רבי אחא ורבי חנינא, אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, הלכה כרבי שמעון, שאמר משום רבי עקיבא, that's the הלכה according רבי שמעון. And we conclude, אמר רבי זרע, ובלבד שלא אמר אשכבנו. The condition for all of that is provided, not say the post-Shema blessing of אשכבנו, because you said, please God help us to lie down at night, and it's already morning, so it's inappropriate. כי עד הרב יצחק בר יוסף אמר, עד רבי אחא ורבי חנינא, אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, לאו בפירוש יתמר, אלא בכלל היתמר. There's a general implication, זוגא דרבנן השתכרו בהידורא דבי רבי יהושע בן לוי, that was a rabbi who became intoxicated at the wedding of celebration of Yehoshua ben Levi's son, and as a result of which they fell into the deep sleep and were unable to say Shema before the dawn. Ato lekame Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, they came before Yehoshua ben Levi. Amar, he said by force of circumstance, kedai Rabbi Shimon lismoch alav b'shalat chag. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is worthy enough to rely upon him in that time, b'diavad, at his pressing need.
la la